Yeah, so KML might have ended ages ago, but considering I never made a proper recap for it, here we are. Honestly, I was just bored and needed something not incredibly time-consuming to do, and there's only 16 teams to talk about, so let's just get into it. You ever know someone who's clearly good at something but can never seem to achieve anything great in it? Like they probably have the ability to win, but are always bested by someone else? That's the Locust Plague. 2/3 of their events were 7th or above, but only one medal, a bronze courtesy of Scourge and Uphill Battle. That's all they have to their name, and yet they finished in 5th overall. They had chances but never did anything spectacular with them, as if they had the ability to do well, but like the skill needed to go out and actually do it. I think they have talent, sure, but nothing I'd call special without being able to use it well. My only advice is to take some notes from the teams above you and come back stronger next season. Do you like teams that do one thing well one time and absolutely nothing else whatsoever? If so, the Revolutionaries are for you! This pitiful platoon of passionless partisans produced one particularly prominent performance in Sprint via Riot destroying everyone, and followed it up by decaying into a shell of a team for the rest of the tournament. Only 85 points sits them in 13th overall by the end, and the second worst point total in team events. Even with the gold, they were below average in individual events too. Just be glad you got to have one moment of glory. That's still more than some other teams. Yeah, so basically everything I said about the Revolutionaries applies to the Graveyard Ghouls as well, just on a slightly better scale. This team started this tournament off well, a bronze in bounce back and a silver in block bumping, placing them second after 3 events. This was followed up by, for lack of a better pun, death. You faded into irrelevancy before anyone could probably register that you were important in the first place, ending up at 9th overall. That isn't horrific, but with how you started, it's quite disappointing to see you this low down. There's still potential here, but it needs time if you want to resurrect into anything respectable. I have no idea how to feel about the Bexoplanets. On one hand, they sucked most of the season, averaged less than 4 points per individual event, and finished in 12th overall. On the other hand, they tied for the highest team events points, and that's with a 14th and 16th in team pursuit and block bumping. I have no clue how they did it, but sometime after Event 3, this team got their act together and showed off some of the best teamwork I've ever seen, snatching a gold in balancing and silvers in both collision curling and relay. Meanwhile, their individual performance stayed dismal at best. I don't know what it is about them, but where I'd normally dismiss this team as another trash heap, for some reason I feel like they could actually do well in different circumstances. I can't explain it, but I feel like there's more than meets the eye with this team. There is really only one way to describe the Necromancer Knights. Painfully mid. Half of your performances were 7th, 8th, or 9th. Reaper managed a surprise gold in Uphill Battle, and that's the only time you were ever truly relevant. You struggled in team events, but made up for it with above average individual performances. It's really hard to describe you with any real adjectives because you don't embody anything in particular. You're decent at worst, but also decent at best, existing in some kind of limbo state where you're not good at anything and also never really suck at anything either. Just pick one and make this a whole lot easier for me. Now here's a solid team. The Sprites started off hot out of the gate with a bronze in team pursuit, and then Captain Fairy captured a silver in sprint. They mellowed out a little before striking again with 2 golds in a row, Sylph in hurdles, and then a team victory in block duel, placing them at the top of the standings going into the last third. Unfortunately, the next 3 events weren't anything special, and though Fairy did their best in elimination race with a bronze, it wasn't enough, and you ended up 3rd overall. Still, a fantastic season, claiming the highest medal count and proving to be a very well-rounded team, strong in both team and individual events. It's hard to spot this team's weaknesses, and come another season, they'll be one to watch out for. Yeah, this team just sucks. No ifs or buts or maybes, just straight up bad. Starting the season with a 15th and a 14th is not the kind of entrance you would want in an invitational like this, and when a bronze in block bumping brought you some hope, you immediately crashed back down with Kindness finishing dead last in sprint. What followed was a pathetic display of performances that left you with nothing to play for by Event 9, only finishing 15th because another team was somehow even more pathetic than you. You were the worst team in team events, the second worst in individual events, and your arch rivals won the entire league. Aren't angels supposed to be like good and inspire hope in people? Because the only thing you guys inspire is existential dread. The Valiant Velocity are basically just the Locust Plague but ever so slightly better. Above average and not particularly close to winning anything, but at least these guys know how to win medals, collecting 3 with Excel taking gold in bounce back, pace to bronze in hurdles, and then another bronze in relay. That makes it look like you live up to your name, but Team Pursuit and Sprint would disagree with that notion. On the whole though, this team is good. Good enough to act as a dark horse going into the finale, but still out of reach of that top 3. Excel crashing out early, but doing enough to secure 4th overall. A solid team, but one that needs to work out some intricacies before making a comeback. Every marble competition is obligated to have at least one team that does literally nothing of interest whatsoever with their position on the roster, and boy do the Surface Striders fulfill that role. And when I say nothing of interest, I mean nothing. This team had exactly one finish in either the top or bottom 3, that being Skeeter's 15th in Elimination Race. That meant this team went practically unnoticed for 95% of the season, and that other 5% was them sucking. And it's not the good kind of irrelevance either, with 80 total points sitting them 14th overall. So I'd say this team sucks, however their individual names are really fun to say, and isn't that what truly matters? The Kitten Castle are little more than a disappointment. They started strong with a silver in the first event, and did alright later in the season with a bronze in Block Duel and a gold in Bathtub Endurance. Everything between and after those medals was horrible. They had one other top half finish. Team events were terrible outside of the medals, and as for individual ones, why were Calico and Siamese given 4 out of the 6 individual events? Tabby and Maine Coon pulled off a gold and a 5th respectively, but these two couldn't manage anything better than a 12th. You are so lucky you only finished as low as 11th. You really are kittens. Small, weak, and generally unthreatening to everyone around you. The winners of the now dead Marble Collision League didn't exactly match the performance that led to that victory here. This wasn't bad by any means. 3 medals overall, courtesy of Queen Silver in Uphill Battle, a fitting bronze in Collision Curling, and a gold in Relay, as well as generally good team event showings overall, brought you up the standings, but you struggled to make names for yourselves individually, and didn't really have much chance for a win by the end. Majesty faltered quickly in Elimination Race, finishing off the last hopes you had for an overall podium. Still, an overall 6th place is nothing to scoff at, even if it's far from where you've been before. I wouldn't call the royalty theme fitting anymore, but at least it's not ironic. As for the other Collision League team, ouch. This performance was not up to standard. Yeah, you've got new uniforms and all, but that does not excuse your Captain Amber being the worst member of your team. The rest of your members weren't particularly impressive either, only Carnelian managing one of your 2 silvers in hurdles, the other silver coming from balancing. Everything else was pretty much trash or irrelevant, but the biggest sin was the 15th place in Collision Curling. Did you forget that the entire reason you're here in the first place was because you did well in the Collision Tournament? All of this resulted in an overall poor 10th place finish. This team is a shadow of what they were in the MCL, and with that tournament replaced without taking the opals with it, I don't see much hope for them in the future. If I had a nickel for every Ladybug competitor that wiped the floor with everyone in their way in one of my tournaments, I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, yada yada, you get it. The Scarlet Sins are kind of like a freight train. A little slow to get going, but once they do, there's nothing that can stand in their way. And you can't even call their start slow because it took 6 events before they finished outside the top 6. But their medals, except Greed's bronze and sprint, came in the last 4 events when they really mattered most. A team gold in Collision Curling, a 2nd bronze for Greed in Bathtub Endurance, and Envy sealed it off with a golden elimination rates to make the team champions. And I can't really make many jokes because this team was just that good. Individual events alone saw them score 81 points, which is more than the total points scored by the bottom 3 teams. You knew what it took to win, and did it in spectacular fashion. A well-deserved championship if I've ever seen one. Can we just rename this team to Bullet and Friends, because my goodness did they carry like hell. They first led the silver in Block Duel and won 2 silvers all by themselves in Bathtub Endurance and Elimination Race, almost spoiling the Scarlet Sins championship in the process and securing a very well-earned MVM title. The rest of their team was little more than a limp carcass they managed to drag all the way to 8th place. Without Bullet carrying, they pulled off, an 8th in balancing and not one other top half finish. The best the other 3 can do in their individual events was a 9th, and you can't exactly win team events with only one marble trying to do anything. The only part of this team with a future is their captain, and I bet they're going to bail the second they can and leave the rest of this team to the wolves. You know, I remember looking at the standings halfway through the season, right after the Mossy Mice got bronze in balancing, and I thought, wow, this team sucks. But surely they can't be worse than the Ice Angels. Not only were they worse than the Ice Angels, they made them look like gods. First of all, they were bad in team events. Like, not horribly bad, but bad. Now guess how many points they got in individual events. If you guessed 23, you're wrong, that's the Bexoplanets total. The Mossy Mice got 7. 7 points in 6 events. Mouse got 4 in Sprint, Rat got 3 in Bathtub Endurance, and the other 4 events were all dead last. Be glad Mess and Wisp exist, because otherwise you'd be easily the most pathetic set of competitors ever featured on this channel. Chuck this team into the fire and never let them see the light of day again. It's for everyone's own good. And our final team, the Cardboard Cutouts. You tried so hard. You came smashing out the gate with 57 points in the first 3 events and had a 20-point lead. Then we watched as, ever so slowly, event by event, that lead disintegrated. You tried to hold on to it as much as you could, with consistent good finishes, but couldn't find a way to return to the brilliance you started with. Unable to get another medal, and eventually it was too much to handle. The Emerald Sprites caught you, and then you caught them back, but it was too late. Despite a valiant effort by Model in the final event, the Scarlet Sins would not be stopped and you fell behind to 2nd overall. Don't get me wrong, this was a fantastic performance. But after how dominantly you started, how unstoppable you looked after block bumping, that silver just feels empty. Like it could have been more. Like it should have been more. But I guess that's just how the cardboard crumbles. And that is it for the KML. Next thing I have lined up should be the beginning of Marble Skirmishes, and maybe the KMC Season 7 recap somewhere in between. So whenever that happens, I will see you then.